Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have an almost supernatural control over the environment around them without saying a word? They don't shout, they don't beg, they simply withdraw. And suddenly everything changes. The energy shifts. People start to question, to chase after, to feel. Now imagine if you did the same. If you stopped reacting immediately to everything. If you chose silence instead of the automatic response, retreat instead of explosion. What do you think would happen? That's where the point lies. When you stop being always available emotionally, physically, psychologically, the world around you goes into crisis because people are used to controlling you through your reactions, through your impulses, through your predictability. But the day you choose to withdraw, the game changes. And those who thought they knew, you realize they know absolutely nothing about you. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves." Now think about this. When you become inaccessible, who really gets desperate? Who gets irritated? Who tries to provoke you just to elicit some emotion back? This reveals more about the other than about you. And it mainly reveals how much you are still being manipulated without realizing it. You keep giving yourself to please, to maintain peace, to not lose people who deep down were never really with you. With every forced yes, every immediate response, every emotional reaction, you give away a piece of your energy. And at the end of the day, what's left? Tiredness, frustration, and emptiness you can't explain. But I'll tell you why. Because you are too available for those who don't deserve even a minute of your silence. This is not about turning your back on the world. It's about choosing yourself, about learning what Jung called individuation. The process of becoming whole, authentic, complete. And this process begins when you understand that silence can be stronger than 1,000 arguments. Withdrawal, when it comes from awareness and not from escape, is an act of power. So I ask you now, how long will you continue to be controlled by the emotions of others? How long will you react like a puppet every time someone pokes your wound? Maybe it's time to cut those strings, to withdraw, to become a mystery. Because when you stop being available, everything changes. You have been taught to always be present, to respond quickly, to please, to say yes even when you wanted to say no. Since childhood, you have been conditioned to believe that your worth lies in how available you are to others. But here's a truth that perhaps no one has told you with this clarity. This excessive availability is not a virtue. It is a prison. As long as you continue to think that you need to be accessible all the time, emotionally or otherwise, you will be manipulated, drained, and forgotten as soon as you are no longer useful. Do you know why? Because being always available makes you seem predictable, and everything that is predictable becomes a tool. People start to use you as an emotional emergency button. They press it when they want attention, relief, validation, and then put you back on the shelf. You don't realize this because you are trapped in an illusion that being present for everyone will make someone be present for you. But it doesn't work that way. Carl Jung spoke about the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted, loved, recognized. It is exactly this mask that keeps you overly available. You say it's okay when you are suffocating. You respond to messages immediately even when you are exhausted. You explain yourself, justify yourself, defend yourself as if you owe something to the world. But the truth is that the more you place yourself at the center of others' stage, the more you disappear from your own. Being available all the time is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It is a disguised way of seeking approval, avoiding rejection, trying to control the image others have of you. But this control comes at a price, and the price is your peace. Your vital energy is being distributed as if it were infinite, when in fact it is limited, very limited. People who want you available all the time do not want you. They want what you provide: validation, company, distraction, emotional comfort. When you change, set a boundary, or refuse to react, those same people get irritated, accuse you, say you are weird. It's not because you changed, it's because you stopped being functional for them. And here's the cruelest point. The more available you are, the less value others give you. What is too abundant becomes an emotional rag. No one respects what they don't have to earn. No one values what is always there. So now stop and think. Who truly deserves your time? Who deserves your attention, your presence, your listening? Or better yet, who deserves your absence? Before answering that, we need to understand one essential thing. Why do we react so much? Why do we give in so easily? What is behind this almost automatic desire to respond, justify, and please? The answer lies in what Carl Jung called psychic energy. Your energy is all you have. If you don't learn to protect it, someone will use it against you. Jung did not see the human psyche as an automatic machine that reacts to stimuli without consequences. For him, our mind is like an energy system, and every thought, emotion, and action consumes a part of that energy. The question is, are you choosing where your energy goes, or are you letting the world decide for you? Every time you react impulsively, you waste psychic energy, defending yourself against a criticism that didn't deserve attention, responding to a provocation just to prove you are right, engaging in useless discussions, trying to please those who do not value you. You are spending your inner strength on what does not nourish you. And Jung was clear, that which you resist persists. The more you react, the more you bind yourself. People who live emotionally drained are not weak, they are misdirected. Exhaustion makes you vulnerable. Manipulative, opportunistic, and emotionally needy people sense this. They notice that you do not know how to guard your energy, that you react to everything, that you're always trying to solve the world, and they take advantage of it. A healthy psyche knows how to keep energy within the system. This means knowing how to say no without guilt, knowing how to remain silent without feeling cowardly, knowing how to observe before acting. True power is not in reacting. It is in choosing when and how to act. This is only possible when you know yourself well enough to recognize your own impulses. How many times have you lost sleep over an unresolved conversation? How many hours have you spent ruminating on what you should have said or trying to understand why someone treated you poorly? This is energy being drained without return. You keep alive ghosts that should have died long ago and feed dynamics that only exist because you insist on responding. Psychic energy is like a force field. When well guarded, it creates presence. You enter a room and command respect without saying a word. When poorly managed, you become invisible, reactive, fragile. And the world has no mercy for those who give in easily. Start observing your own triggers. What makes you react automatically? What makes you lose your center? These are the exact points where your energy escapes and where you need to work. Not to become cold or indifferent, but to be selective and sovereign over yourself. When you conserve your energy, you break the projections that others place upon you. Now we enter the territory of silent manipulation. Most of your emotional responses are programmed, and those who understand this manipulate you easily. Opportunistic. People don't need to raise their voices or force situations. They just trigger the buttons you've left exposed and you react. Always. Jung called this projection. People project onto others what they cannot see in themselves. There's another side. While others project onto you, you become the receptacle for these images. The more emotionally available you are, the more you become a blank canvas for these projections. The friend who reaches out only in crisis, the partner who always needs you to save the day, the person who praises you only as long as you are useful. None of this is by chance. They are relating to the idea of you, to the role you agree to play. And why do you agree? Fear of disappointing, of not being loved, of being abandoned. The most effective manipulation happens in the silence of guilt. You feel you owe something, that you need to be available, to help, to understand, even when it destroys you inside. The manipulator doesn't need to control you. They only need you to keep reacting the same way. When you stop reacting, the game breaks. When you start saying no, responding with silence, withdrawing instead of explaining yourself, the projections begin to crumble. The mask they put on you falls. People become unsettled because they no longer know who you are. And worse, they are forced to look at themselves. Your unavailability is a threat because it forces others to confront their own emptiness. The silence you offer reveals the internal noise they don't want to hear. Then comes the attack, the criticism, the emotional drama. Not because you are wrong, but because you stopped serving as a convenient mirror. Jung said, We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. When you withdraw, when you stop feeding the cycle, the other's shadow begins to emerge. This is unbearable for those who have always used you as an escape, but what about you? Are you ready to deal with the discomfort of being misunderstood, rejected, or even attacked for protecting yourself? Are you ready to endure the silence that comes after the rupture? It is precisely in that silence that a new kind of power is born. The modern world is noisy. Everyone wants to be heard, respond quickly, win pointless debates, and prove their point, even at the cost of their peace. Few know a greater power, the power of silence. Not passivity or cowardice, but conscious, strategic, brutally lucid silence, the kind that is not absence, but amplified presence. Jung saw silence not as a void, but as fertile ground for inner transformation. When you stop reacting, you begin to observe. By observing, you see patterns that went unnoticed, emotional repetitions, manipulation games, cycles of self-sabotage. Silence allows lucidity, and lucidity is dangerous to those who live to control you. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond? When you don't explain yourself? When you simply disappear? It's not because they miss you. It's because your silence takes away their narrative control. While you speak, you are still in the game. When you are silent, you change the rules, and that unbalances anyone who thrives on your reaction. True silence is not the absence of voice. It is mastery over your energy. It is the refusal to be dragged down by someone else's emotions. It is the conscious choice not to engage in battles that are not worth your wear. Individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, requires this distancing, because only in silence can you hear yourself without the world's interference. Silence has a price. It will distance you from people who valued you only for the role you played. It will make you incomprehensible to those who saw you only through their own projections. It will make you seem cold, distant, arrogant. But that is a reaction from those who never wanted to deal with your depth, only your utility. The more you mature, the more selective you become with your words, because you understand that each sentence is an energetic investment and not everyone deserves access to your truth. Sometimes silence is not retreat, it is sovereignty, the language of those who no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Silence is uncomfortable because it forces the other to deal with their own thoughts and internal noise, and this discomfort reveals more about them than any argument of yours could. You don't need to explain your absence, it explains itself. Those who feel threatened by it reveal how much they depended on your imbalance to maintain their own control. But the most powerful silence is not the one that disturbs the other. It is the silence that reconstructs you from within, that connects you to something beyond external approval. In this internal space, free from others' demands, you begin to recover your vital energy and reconnect with your essence. It's not enough to cut out external noise. You need to relearn how to use your energy consciously, to choose where it goes, where it stays, and where it should never be wasted. It's time to be selective with your own soul. Awareness without action is self-deception. True transformation begins when you firmly decide to become selective. This requires emotional discipline. Conscious unavailability is not about being cold or arrogant. It's about no longer being accessible to anyone, at any time, for any reason. It's about taking control of your own energy, time, and peace. This starts with small actions, not responding immediately, breathing before reacting, leaving a discussion before being dragged into chaos, turning off your phone without guilt, saying, "Not today, I'm not interested, I won't get involved." Most importantly, you don't need to justify your absence or explain your silence. You owe nothing to anyone but yourself. For many people, this is unforgivable, because when you refuse to explain yourself, you take away their power to keep you within an emotional narrative where you are always the helpful, understanding, accessible one. Every process of individuation goes through isolation, not depressive isolation, but sacred isolation, a time of inner retreat where you relearn to listen to your own voice without the world's interference, where you rebuild your identity from your own center, not others' gaze. A good thermometer for your evolution is to observe who distances themselves when you become more reserved, who tries to provoke you when you stop reacting, who accuses you of having changed when you finally start to protect yourself. These are not signs that you are wrong. They are proof that you have begun to free yourself. Being unavailable is uncomfortable at first. You'll feel guilty, think you're selfish, hear that you're too harsh. This is part of deconstruction. You've been conditioned to put yourself second. It's natural that change causes discomfort, not only in you but also in everyone who benefited from your old version. Conscious unavailability is the foundation of self-determination. When you say no to the world, you say yes to yourself. When you withdraw from a toxic environment, you reaffirm that your peace is worth more than any false connection. When you stop explaining yourself, you begin to be respected, even if by few. Not everyone is ready for this presence, because your emotional absence will expose wounds they do not want to face and reveal how much they depended on your chaos to feel in control. Then the rupture comes, with pain, loneliness, estrangement, the feeling that you are losing something when in fact you are freeing yourself. What happens after the distancing? What is born from the silence? The rebirth that only happens when you have the courage to be misunderstood, to be alone, and to become whole on your own. This is why the loneliness of the strong is the path to true freedom. When you stop being available to everyone, something profound happens. First comes the uncomfortable silence that screams inside you. You wonder if you did the right thing, if you are too harsh, if you are losing people who liked you. Gradually the silence cleanses, calms, and heals. Then comes solitude, not absence, but total presence, your own. The solitude of the strong, of one who no longer betrays themselves to keep others close. In the space where there was confusion, clarity enters. Where there was anxiety, peace. Where there was neediness, a new strength, the strength of being whole within yourself. The process of individuation requires you to distance yourself from the collective, to disidentify from the mask, to walk alone for a while. When you decide to become unavailable, you are not fleeing the world. You are returning to yourself. You stop being a reactor and become a creator. You cease to be shaped by circumstances and begin to shape your reality from within. Those who feel uncomfortable with your absence reveal that they never wanted you. They wanted the role you played. Now that you no longer fit, they don't know what to do with you, and that is liberating. You will lose people but find yourself. You will leave places but reconnect with your essence. You will be misunderstood but finally respected. When you are no longer available for anything, you become valuable, rare, unforgettable. This is a rebirth, a new beginning, the start of a life where you are no longer available for emotional crumbs, mind games, or voids disguised as affection. Now you accept only what resonates with your peace, your truth, your wholeness. If you've made it this far, a part of you is ready for this path. A part of you has understood that being loved means nothing if you must abandon yourself, and that true self-love begins when you choose yourself, even if it costs being alone for a while. Are you ready to be misunderstood, rejected, or even hated in the name of your inner freedom? Are you willing to pay the price of being you? If this message touched you right, I choose my peace. Keep going. It's more important than you imagine.